So this here is the Oppo A7. Now this phone was launched globally very recently, and we're making this video today for one simple reason, and that is to tell you that you should not buy this phone. Yes, you heard it right, do not buy this phone. And if you ask me why, it is because I have spent some time with this phone and I thought it was supposed to be a budget phone, but it costs a whopping $35,790, which converts to some $300. Well, I don't know that much about international pricing, but that's the way it is in Nepal, and that is totally absurd. Inside the box, you get a transparent case with some paperwork. Underneath, there's the phone, the Oppo A7. Besides, we've got a charging brick, no headphones it seems. Again, it costs Rs 35,790 and there are no headphones. Taking the Xiaomi route maybe, but at least Xiaomi phones are cheaper. The charging brick in this one is the 5V 2A, which states that again, it does not have fast charging standards. As for the phone itself, the phone has a plastic construction with glossy finish. You might easily mistake it for glass, but it's pretty lightweight. It looks good and feels good in your hands too, but there's a bit of cheapness to it. By that, I mean that this phone does not feel very premium. The color here is called glazed blue, but it appears to me some form of combination between blue and green. There's nothing striking about the phone, although the 2D curved glass on the back is somewhat a different approach. The volume rockers are on the left while the power button resides on the right. And it still has that micro USB port. The fingerprint sensor is at the back, positioned very nicely. As for the biometrics, both the fingerprint sensor and the software-based facial recognition are quite fast. There's screen lighting compensation that helps facial unlock in the dark too. Up front, you've got this teardrop display with a tiny notch just like on the Oppo F9. The display is a 6.2-inch IPS LCD panel with HD+ resolution. Yes, this is only HD, not the full HD we normally see on a phone at this price bracket. With a 19:9 aspect ratio, the display size is good, but a 271 ppi pixel density is not enough. If you observe closely, you can see some pixelation on the screen. However, color representation and overall display is good too. As for the cameras, the rear camera is a dual camera setup which combines a 13-megapixel primary sensor and a 2-megapixel depth sensor. Camera quality is just above average as it depends heavily on the light. In good lighting condition, the details are good enough. Portrait mode, as usual, is a hit or a miss. Some samples like that of a close-up portraits look good, and that happens when you have just the right lighting conditions. For full-body shots, the bokeh effect doesn't look as good. In low light, edge detection suffers and the images gather some noise. The front camera is a 16-megapixel shooter but seems to perform better than the rear camera. The details in selfies are just better than other pictures. The software-based portrait also gives better sense of depth, but I would still advise you not to use the beauty mode in your selfies. They just look too unnatural. There's a large 4230 mAh battery, which is not new for Oppo as they are used to pushing large batteries on their smartphones, and also because the screen resolution is just HD+, the battery does last for a good amount of time. However, with the lack of fast charging, the battery takes a while to charge. But the most ridiculous thing about this phone is that for such a price, you only get Snapdragon 450 inside. Yes, the Snapdragon 450, the same processor that you get on the Oppo A3s that comes for half the price of what this one does. Yes, you get 4GB of RAM and 64GB of internal storage, but that is the same as you get on the Realme 2. Granted that Realme 2 is not there in Nepal, but still the Oppo A7 is ridiculously priced. Performance-wise, the Snapdragon 450 performs just as expected. Multitasking is okay to an extent, but it cannot keep apps open in the background for too long. Also, there exists a bit of lags and app loading time is slow. Especially while having multiple tabs open on the web browser, overall speed of the phone becomes very slow. Gaming on this phone is not good either. While light games can run pretty well, PUBG suffers a lot. You can play PUBG in balanced graphics and medium frame rates, but you will face some stutters and navigating is not as smooth. The Game Space feature on this phone, which is somewhat similar to Huawei's Turbo Boost, helps in gaming, but it cannot give you the full smooth experience. Asphalt 9 is playable on low settings, and even then, it takes a while to load and there are some minor stutters sometimes. Software-wise, the Colors OS on top of Android has been updated, which is now a bit more user-friendly. Overall experience is the same, but one thing is that you no longer have to swipe left and cross out notifications to get rid of them, which is a very big relief. Other than that, there are some bloatware you can't get rid of, but they are not as many as on some other phones. Now, you might say that I have been focusing on the negative aspects of the phone, but for a phone that costs nearly 36,000, this is to be expected. And first, a phone with Snapdragon 450 should not even cost that much. Well, yes, there was the Samsung Galaxy A6 Plus, but that phone at least had a good design, good set of cameras, and a Super AMOLED display to show for it. This one cannot even be compared to that. This phone is basically the Oppo Realme 2 with an added extra step, the extra step being a 16 megapixel front camera over Realme 2's 8 megapixel camera. And even with that added step, it is not worth that exorbitant pricing. I would probably pay up to 25,000 for this phone, not a bit more, and to think that this phone is priced close to 36,000. So there you have it, guys, the Oppo A7 globally launched and here launched for a price of Rs 35,790. Well, you get a lot of phones in that price range. There's also the Huawei Y9 2019 and Xiaomi Mi A2, both of which cost less than this, and we cannot forget the Pocophone F1. So with all the competition out there, this phone simply seems like a waste of money. If the pricing could have been along the lines of less than 25,000, this video might have turned out differently, but it is not so I would advise you to let this phone go. So that is all for our review of the Oppo A7. Tell us what you think about the pricing of this device in the comment section below. Till then, I am Pratima Adhikari and keep watching Gadget.